Welcome to the Gig Boss Podcast. We've got multi-instrumentalist, producer, engineer, frontman, and all-around great dude, Jaron Jay, on the podcast today. Jaron's a badass track maker who is now releasing material under his own name, but who's also been a go-to producer for over a decade, often functioning in the music for ads space. I'm not saying sync licensing because we talked about that, but he did a lot of music for ads. He's based in Australia, but he can be found touring out in the world and collaborating remotely with artists all over the globe. I've actually had the privilege of working with him as a horn arranger, and my wife has actually sung on one of his tracks as well. I'm super pumped to do more. Please welcome to the podcast, Jaron Jay.
I was just about to go. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, man, I'm glad you could do it.
We were just talking about the fact that we've known each other for like 2 years now, pretty much, which has gone very quickly, as it has. I'm sure it has for most people. But this is the first, well, second, but really the first time we've actually been at a level where it's like, cool, I can see your face and actually speak to you. So it's nice.
Yeah, we're talking. We're like talking. We've been doing the voice message thing, which is, I feel like all my friends that are overseas do that, but that's like not a thing that anybody in my circle does. So like my buddy who lives in Jamaica will do that a little bit. Yeah. And I do that with you, and that's pretty much it. And I've gotten used to it. It's kind of nice. It's like you're actually having a conversation. You hear each other's voice, which is cool. Yeah.
I do. It's kind of weird that, I mean, I'm kind of impressed that you and I managed to do some really cool work together just by going just like a 60-second voice message. Like, yeah, man, that'll be cool. Can we change this part? It's like, we never thought to call, but I mean, we got some good stuff done. So we got
some shit done. And you called me like whatever, an hour ago now.
Yeah.
And you were like, I feel like we should talk a little bit before we talk for the first time.
Yeah. Well, I was like, we need to at least hear each other's speaking patterns before we jump on a call together.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, man, I'm glad it worked. And I think it's a really kind of an interesting lesson on like how things work now. It's like you can find somebody on the internet, and you can collaborate, and you can do tons of work together, and maybe never have like a phone conversation with them, or even like a Zoom or anything like that,
Yeah. Man, there's
the power of today.
Yeah, the power of today. It's like, it's weird, but it's like, it's a funny thing between like, this is sort of weird. Like there's a lot of weird aspects to the internet and the whole virtual communication thing, but it's also amazing. Like there's a guy who I've worked with for probably 4 years, and we've never met. He's in Thailand, but I feel like we're really good buddies, which is the really cool thing. And it's always interesting to be like, I've thought about like, if him and I were to meet, it's like, is it gonna be like, am I gonna have to relearn the friendship, or like, do this whole like, oh, now we're in person, let's like,
we got to figure this out.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Different vibe.
Yeah.
Well, hey man, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your background. So like, could you tell me a little bit, like, did your parents play music? You play like everything. I mean, you're crushing it on the guitar, bass, drums, vocals, keyboards. You're producing tons of stuff. Your stuff sounds great. Like, was music in your family? Is that something that you were around growing up?
First of all, thank you. That's a very nice compliment. I think like going back, so my parents, they were like very frequent disco goers back in the 70s. So I guess there was, always some element of, rhythm, basic rhythm. Yeah. I sort of watched my parents and uncles on my mum's side like dancing a lot when I was younger, so they would always like have super killin' disco tunes on and just be dancing. Like they always used to have like, for every one of their birthdays, they'd have like parties at halls, and they're all Sri Lankan, so it would be like a very like, everybody come, let's go dancing. Like,
nice.
Everyone would, get really super jolly. So, music was always a thing. Like, music was definitely always a thing. In terms of like actual formal practice or lessons or anything like that, I think that was sort of started, organically by me. And I think maybe on my grandma's side, there was, one of her brothers might have played guitar back in the day. But other than that, like, strangely, no. Like, I don't think so, besides maybe just having an innate love for music.
Right.
That was about it.
Man, I feel like I always, I run into these musicians that I really like, or I hear these young musicians and I'm wowed by, and I end up finding out that like dad was a band director, or mom played violin in the symphony, or like, it's like they just grew up in it.
Yeah.
And I get this question a lot myself, like because my my mom played violin, but I never heard her play violin. She broke her pinky real bad and didn't play after that. And my dad was like, he would sing. He loved great music. They always had great music on, you know.
Yeah.
So there was that element of like my dad would turn the speakers way up. I mean, he loved to listen to music loud, so he'd be like, Adam, get your trumpet. You know, let's play along to this Chicago record or whatever.
Yeah.
So he'd be playing great music, but you know, it's like my parents weren't musicians either, and to end up, I feel like it's a little bit on the rare side to like end up as a industry pro and not have been nurtured in that way, in the way that's like I see with my boys, where it's like we're constantly doing call and response, or like Jana's playing piano, I'm playing trumpet, and we're like, here's some instruments, play. You know, it's like they're just kind of in it.
Yeah, that's super cool. I like that. I mean, I'm always super interested in the question of like whether musical ability is nature or nurture, and I think for a lot of people, at least as far as I've thought about it, it's like if you play like, you know, bitchin' music around your kids, it's like it's hard that they're not gonna just start to, you know, like it's gonna be like a language. They hear it, it just comes out, you know, once it's in there. But yeah, there's a few cases like that where I actually have a friend whose parents are in the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra, and yeah, he's pretty young. He's like 21, 22, insanely talented jazz pianist, jazzy pianist. But yeah, jazz-esque. Yeah, jazz-esque. Yeah, it's very interesting though. But in terms of the whole producing thing, like, I think it started like I just wanted to not have to pay for recording studios. I just wanted to kind of record my own stuff, and you know, it sucked for ages, for like a good 5 years trying to record my own stuff. It sucked, and then it kind of like. It got to a point where I was like, okay, cool, I need to spend like a good bit of time on this to, to not suck anymore.
So did you go to YouTube videos? Did you like take a class? Like how did you learn it? Was it just repetition?
Yeah, it was a lot of YouTube actually. Like it was heaps of YouTube, and I'm always telling people like if I mean, not that I'm the total authority on mixing, I'm certainly not, but if anyone asks me like, oh man, you know, how should I get into mixing or producing or anything, I'm like, just go to the internet, man. There's so like the amount of you could literally search like how to eat a muesli bar the right way, and you would find 1,000 videos. So yeah, I sort of just did the YouTube thing, and you know, just talking about that ad writing job. I was sort of around a lot of people who were quite good at mixing, especially in like when I was in the earlier days in like 2018 is when I started that job. And that sort of forced me to just like get better quickly. And being around people that were good at it, you know, it was easy to ask a question or you know, to get a critique on a mix or something.
Yeah. So you're surrounded by people that were doing it at that job. Tell me about that job. Like, you know, yeah, tell me about that job. How was that set up? It was a salaried gig or an hourly thing, or like how did that work? Yeah,
so it was like I got the job sort of just on chance. Like when I was living in Berlin, and it was at the tail end of mid to tail end of 2018, and German company, they're called Audio Force. Which is the worst name ever. Audio Force. Anyway, so I got this job, and yeah, it was sort of like the company I was working for, Audio Force, is sort of the middleman between bigger clients and the composers. So I would generally have to do, say if it was a job, like I did a lot of car ads, like I did a lot of like BMW and Mercedes and Nissan and stuff. And it was basically like I'd have to submit 2 to 3 songs. And so maybe there'd be like 4 other people on the job. So I'd submit 3 songs, and then maybe 4 other people would submit 2 to 3 songs. And we'd all get a buyout fee, which is basically like, you know, included in the budget. So regardless of whether my song was chosen, I would still get €500 per 2 songs.
Wow.
And they were only like 30 seconds, you know, so it was essentially like writing 1 song. So yeah, you would get the buyout fee, the layout fee, sorry, which is the 500 initial euros just for writing the thing, and then on top of that, like if your song is to win or be chosen by the client, it would then receive a buyout fee essentially, which is, you know, just outright buy the track, and that would sort of be dependent on how many composers were on the job, like how many ways they had to split for the layout fee. And then it would also depend on essentially how much money's left in the budget from the client. So it was like, it was like cool because it was always that €500 initial fee. And then it was like, your buyout would change from job to job. And that was pretty much the deal of it.
So then could you like take one of those tracks and go to Marmoset and like upload it to Marmoset's database and be like, hey, do you want to use this? Or were those like, no, you couldn't use them anymore? They completely bought the track from you.
I'm assuming Marmoset is a library type of thing.
So licensing
library.
Agency,
Yeah. Okay. I could, So, I mean, if one was chosen and they used it on an ad, then that's theirs. But like, I think there's a couple of songs. I don't know if you remember seeing my Them Changes, Them Changes
I do remember
cover.
seeing that.
Yep. That was actually born out of one of the songs I did for Audioforce. Like the groove was. And I think a lot of like the percussion and synth elements, I was just like, cool, I'll just take this Audioforce track and, change it into a cover. So
yeah, man.
Yeah.
And that's everything, right? Like reusing material is huge. As a writer, like, at least for a long time, my process was like I went to compose like in a music notation software rather than in a DAW, right?
Yeah.
And it's like I'll go and reuse chord progressions or reuse, grooves or anything, certain things. There's a certain chord progression I've used on like 3 different songs now that are completely different, but it's like, I like this chord progression and how there's this common tone B flat throughout all of it.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, like, in terms of the latest thing you released, Music for the Water Walkway, did you just was that just fully written? You were kind of at home on, either, was it like a notation software essentially? Do you write in notation software?
I do, I do and I don't. Like, like 6 years ago, I started learning how to use DAWs. Like that I had my only focus early on was like, I just want to be good at trumpet. I just want to learn, I want to master this trumpet thing. I really want to learn the language of jazz, and that's where my heart is. And that's, it's like, I'm going to let other people deal with the recording thing. And then like you said, it's like, I don't want to have to pay for this shit anymore.
Yeah.
So and part of it was like, I could see the writing on the wall. I was working at a contemporary music school where like all of my students could use Logic and Pro Tools. And I was like, geez, this is like, this is the future. People are going to be, I want to be able to put horns on people's stuff. I want to be able to record. I've got all these songs. Like I write songs with lyrics and stuff too. And I play guitar. Like, I've sent you some stuff.
Yeah, you have.
And, like I wanted to record that stuff too and be able to do that. So I just thought, man, 6 years ago, I started using a DAW. So now when I write, it, like when you send me a track, I do it all in the DAW, and then I'll transcribe it and I'll write it. I'm doing some stuff for JP Dallaire too, who tours with Michael Bolton. He's one member of the Peterson family, kind of this like legendary music family in Minneapolis.
Okay, yeah, wow.
And he does a bunch of funk-esque. He played in Carmen Electra's band when Prince was producing Carmen Electra's band back in like the 90s.
Yeah, right.
So he's this bad dude, like smooth jazz sax. He plays keyboards. He sings. And so he'll have me do horns on his stuff. So I'll usually do it all in the DAW, and then I'll go back and I'll transcribe it if he wants to lay an alto part on it. I'll write it out in Finale. But when I'm writing big band music, like Music for the Water Walkway, the new record, I mean that stuff was done. I was sitting at piano first, but then I bring it over to Finale and then I kind of flesh it out.
Yeah, gotcha. Was that recorded? I assume that was recorded. Wait, or maybe did you tell me that was recorded remotely?
All remote.
That's so gnarly, dude. That's really crazy.
And the crazy thing is that, like, dude, I really like it. Dude, like, I listen to it and I'm like, this sounds great.
I spun that album a lot. Libby loves it. Like we were listening to it in the car, and it was just like, Libby was like, wow, you know this dude. Sorry, I'm not meaning to blow smoke up your butt, but no, it's really
awesome,
great, man.
I love hearing that. Thank you. I'm glad you guys like it and listening to it. A buddy of mine who plays alto in the band, he just sent me a text a couple of weeks ago, and he goes, "Dude, he's like big in the indie rock scene too. And he writes a bunch of songs and he plays saxophone. He toured with Bon Iver a little bit." And he sent me a text and he was like, "Man, all my indie rock friends are into your record right now." So I was like, "Hey, all right, that's cool."
Yeah. It's crossing boundaries.
You release this stuff and you wonder like who's gonna like this. I write big band music, but I don't really write big band. It's like writing music in that instrumentation that is influenced by other stuff.
It's neo big band.
It's neo big band. Yeah. Hey, what's the scene like in Australia? I know you said like right now you can only rehearse, but
yeah, pretty much. Dude, I haven't left the studio chair in like 4 years, so I don't know. But
wow,
no,
4 years?
Yeah, dude, I've been since like since I started Audiophils, I've just been like in the studio, like just doing this thing. But like I really haven't actually been in the music scene for quite a while, and even before that, like from 2016 to. So early 2016 to 2019, I was sort of living abroad, living in Europe. And yeah, so it's been a little bit of time since I've sort of like been around the traps of Melbourne. I'm in Geelong, which is about an hour and a bit from Melbourne. So I don't get up there a whole lot. It seems to, like, as far as I can see, and like friends that are super in the scene, it's like it's still a little in ruins. It's very in ruins. And I don't know if I generally kind of keep my head out of politics and all the social aspect of the virus and all that kind of stuff that's happening. But yeah, it does seem like it's on shaky legs a little bit, because I think the whole thing is like there's still capacity rules and there's still all weird stuff around. Like you can only it's like really weird rules. You can only have like a certain amount of people at a gig. I'm sure it was probably the same there for a period of time, but it's sort of still dragging out here. And it's a bit weird. It's a bit weird. That's about as much as I know about it. And yeah, we're still sort of not on the other side to be a downer about it. To be a total downer about it. But yeah, it's a little weird. But there's so many great musicians around from Melbourne. Like I'm sure the Hiatus Coyote dudes come from Melbourne. Yep. There's a lot of like that caliber of really good jazz musos around that area. Cool. And I think, I mean, hopefully soon we'll come out of it,
But, I was just in North Dakota doing a guest artist thing with a high school, and one of the trombone players, I was playing with like an adult big band. They had learned a couple of my tunes, and there was another guest artist with me, and one of the trombone players who was supposed to play in the band, her fiance was being intubated, and they were like saying their goodbyes and stuff. I mean, it's like,
oh, what?
It's like this, because, there's like, I think, when you were referring to like the social aspects of the virus and stuff, I imagine that you're referring to the fact that some people don't think it's real, or some people don't want to take the vaccine. I mean, it's like that's a huge thing here too. Yeah. And it's like this dude is like an unvaccinated dude, and like he's it's like this was a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, oh man, we're doing this, the Omicron is weaker. We got the vaccine. We got the booster. I was like, I'm ready to go, Yeah. And meanwhile, like, these people are saying their goodbyes to this guy who's like in his mid-30s. I mean, it's like this thing really isn't behind us in that way. It's kind of screwed up to say, but
yeah, that is what I'm referring to with the social aspect. My whole thing is like, I don't care if you get it. I don't care if you don't. But like, just one, shut up. And if you don't know, shut up. And two, like, deal with the consequences of whatever choice you make. Like, that's fine. I try to just, I've definitely got like thoughts about it, but I'm but a mere musician. Yeah. Choices
have consequences, though. I mean, that's that's real. That's super real.
For sure.
I want to get back to your track making for ads. I read I've been reading this book, Tracks That Sync by Graham Barton, and just wanted to learn a little bit more. And he talks about creating 30-second tracks, and he says one thing you can do, he says, is you can imagine like a plane is taking off. In terms of the flow of your track, imagine like a plane is taking off, and as you're getting towards the clouds, you experience a bunch of turbulence, and then you get through the clouds, and it's smooth air, and the sun is shining, and it's bright and beautiful. It's when you're thinking about creating a 30-second track for like you get a Mercedes ad. First, are you given a story beforehand, and second, like, is that how you're thinking? Are you thinking like there needs to be a moment in the track where things kind of open up and explode, like a boom moment, that you hear in an ad?
Yeah, it's very that. And like so for most of the tracks I've done for ads, we usually get a reference song, which is kind of wild, which is a little bit wild. And so it's about like, and I would say that this has helped my producing a lot. It's sort of about identifying the essence, for lack of a better word, identifying the essence of the reference, and then trying to toe the line between like, this feels like that, but it's not that.
Right.
So usually it's
that's like what Robin Thicke and Pharrell did, right? And they got sued their pants off.
Yeah. Did they lose that?
They lost that. Oh yeah. They had to pay lots of money. And I remember I listened to this interview with Rick Rubin and Pharrell, and Pharrell was like, he was still kind of sore about it because he was like, we made it feel like that track.
Yeah.
But it's not that song. It doesn't sound like that song, but we made it feel, we found the essence. And I think that's like a gift that producers have, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a challenge. It's the challenge too. It's like, if you can, and the wild thing is, a lot of these cases I've seen, and I don't know too much about it, but a lot of these cases I've seen, it's just like when they take it to court and you've got the panel of judges for whatever.
Sure.
They're just like dudes. They're just like dudes in suits.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
old dudes, old white guys.
Yeah.
Every time.
And it's like,
every time. Do you know the chord changes to a blues, Pharrell? Pharrell was like, no. Did you see those interviews? They did those like, it was like they were being interrogated in like the police station or something. They were like at a table. And they're going,
no, I haven't seen that.
Can you tell me the chords of a blues? Pharrell's like, no.
I love that.
Which was like at one time it was like super sad to hear that, and also it was like, dude, this dude is like a heavy producer and he doesn't even know the chords to a blues. Like,
yeah, I also find it
amazing
hilarious
how there's a disconnect there.
Yeah, I find it hilarious that he's being theoretically interrogated.
Yeah. Interrogated on his theory knowledge.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like them trying to build a case that he doesn't understand music well enough to be able to rip off.
It.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is about. Obviously, he's a brilliant producer and has done tons of amazing stuff. And that interview with Rick Rubin's really cool. Actually, I'll link that in the show notes for people that are listening.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen too much like media surrounding that, but that's. But I actually watched a video on it recently, and the other thing that came up was Uptown Funk, which I think ended up losing. And then there's a whole bunch of like other producers. There's a whole bunch of other bands and artists on there now that are sort of taking a cut. And it's like, that whole thing is hard because like, where's the line between inspiration and straight up like stealing? It's like,
sure. Well, everything's derivative, right? Everything comes from something. It's like we all grew up listening to a whole myriad of musics, and then we put all that together in our heads, and what comes out is what comes out. And sometimes it sounds like something else.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I think it was Miles that he was like, Miles said, if you don't want it stolen, don't play it.
I haven't heard that quote. That's good. I like that.
Yeah. But yeah, to get back to the ad writing thing, it was like it's based on reference tracks, and there is definitely that element of like you need to explode at some point. And a lot of the time I would do things and I would get feedback like, yeah, it's not big enough, it needs to be bigger. So like literally, like you can get away with putting a riser in like and then just putting an explosion sound in. Like legit, that was the scope of this job, man. And I got the feedback. So I did a Huawei job in like early 2019, and the feedback I got, because I think it was for a Chinese client. There was a Chinese Huawei, so there was a bit of a translation issue. So it had to go from obviously a first Chinese speaking person to my boss, who is German, who also doesn't speak very good English, back to me. And the feedback I got was, it sounds too much like bing, bing, bing. It needs to sound more like bong, bong, bong. Legit, I kid you not. And in a way, I kind of got it, which was the weird part. I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
Let's make that change.
Yeah. So yeah,
that's amazing.
It was very like, it was, again, it's that thing like how we're talking about the lawyers in suits. It was just suits, company suits, being like, it needs to be. I think one time someone was like, can you take the violin out? I was like, there's no violin in the song. I don't have a violin or a violin patch that I'm putting in ads.
Oh yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've been standing on stage and sound checking for a show on the road, and the engineer goes, I'd like to check the saxophone, and I'm the only.
Yeah.
Can I check the saxophone? I'm the only horn player on stage. I'm like,
I had that exact
Sure.
same thing happen to a player, Kelly, who I toured in the band with. Same thing, trumpet. Saxophone.
yeah.
Yeah.
Check the sax. This is called a trumpet.
Yeah.
This is called. First of all,
I get it.
turn the highs down.
Yeah,
You're gonna
yeah.
have no idea how to make this sound good.
Yeah, turn the verb down a bit.
Nah, man, give me verb. That covers up all my mistakes.
Yeah, but yeah, that's true. It does.
Let's go reverb.
I always try to practice with verb because it means I need to focus less on my shitty technique and more on, wow, this sounds cool.
There you go.
Ooh.
Yeah, and you know what? While this sounds cool, has some power in it, like in for your head. You know,
Yeah.
For your mental, for your confidence.
Yeah. It's all about confidence.
You know, along those lines, actually, I wanted to ask you because you were in this ad world, and now you're like Jaron Jay, frontmanning your own thing and like making these amazing and sort of hilarious videos and, you know, like incredible music, and like you transition from being that like an ad making 30-second tracks, explosions, to sort of like frontmanning. What was that transition like in your head? You know, it's a lot more personal, sort of putting yourself out there like that. But you seem so comfortable and at home in that space. You seem so comfortable. You're totally like, dude, you jump off the screen when. And I'm not even able to see you in person, right? But it's just like Instagram videos, YouTube. It screams to me like you just like you're doing your thing. You feel comfortable. Was that a transition for you mentally?
Yeah, I don't know. It's so I think the main thing that sort of the catalyst for that was my partner Libby being like, "Hey, you should just like make videos and make music and just put it online." I was like, "Oh, yeah, maybe I should do that." So it was weird. It was like there was no real thought put into it. It was just Libby saying, "You should do that," and I was like, "Yeah, all right, I'll do that." And like I think the nature of like the Jaron Jay character, like I've always been a bit of a larrikin, you know. So like that part's easy. That part's super easy.
Sure.
But yeah, like I think the thing I'm trying to really be aware of is like it's definitely a bandwidth thing of like, cool, I'm working in the studio, I'm doing a whole bunch of stuff, I'm trying to work on tracks and mix and produce and all that. I need to, at least on a social media level, maintain the character of Jaron Jay, which, like, admittedly, I don't think is too far from my actual character.
Sure.
But yeah, it wasn't a huge shift, which was kind of nice. And like, I needed time to obviously, you know, grow up and be comfortable with who I am and all of that kind of deep spiritual kind of stuff that people need to do around anywhere from 22 to 40, depending on who you are and where you've been. But yeah, that was definitely part of it.
I think that deserves more of an aside too. That's a really important and difficult process for a lot of people to really accept yourself and feel comfortable, you know, putting yourself out there like that. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think with anyone, like, you've got to embrace the dark parts too. That's really the part for me that I was like, cool, I got to be comfortable with these shitty parts that either I don't like or some people don't like or whatever it is, or, you know, try and better them, but, you know, not feel ridden down with guilt about them. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Definitely. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So no, the transition was comfortable, and like making those videos in 2020 was a whole bunch of fun because, I mean, you know, we were in lockdown and it was just me and Libby just hanging out, just shooting shit, being silly. So that was it was actually just fun, and it's become a little bit more stressful now that I've sort of, you know, like I've got big guns on board. I've got you, I've got Bob, I've got Dave Ormsby, the drummer. Yep. So like, you know, I'm playing with people's time, and it's like, cool, I gotta deliver on this shit.
Yeah, and you are, man. I'm like, everything I hear sounds so great. And by Bob, you mean Bob Mitzer?
I do.
Jazz people. I'm sure there'll be some jazz people listening to my podcast.
Yeah, I would assume so. Yeah.
Hopefully our net gets cast much wider. But
yeah. So no, it's great. I'm having a really good time though. I'm stoked to be like, as we were just referring back to the whole internet thing,
Yeah.
and social media, like the fact that I was able to meet you and to well, you know, meet you and meet a whole bunch of awesome people. It's like, that's incredible.
Definitely, man.
Yeah.
Definitely. It opens up the whole world. When I was leaving to come to Michigan from Minneapolis, you know, I talked to Mike Nelson, the leader of the Hornheads, who, you know, played with Corey Wong and stuff, and I had done a couple of Corey's albums before I left, and, you know, I was doing tons of recording with the Hornheads. Like, every week there was something for somebody. It wasn't just Corey stuff. It was like they get asked to do tons of stuff because of playing with Prince. And when I got the offer to come to Michigan, I called Mike and I was like, man, what do you think? You know, do you think we could record things remotely? Do you think I could? Like, I got a setup, man. Like, it's sounding better and better. I know what I'm doing now. And he was basically like, no, I don't think it's gonna work. And then COVID hit, and dude, he started calling. And he was like, hey, can you lay this down? Can you lay that down? Can you imitate Randy Brecker on this? Can you do this? Can you do that? And I was like, shit, yeah, let's go. You know, we've recorded tons of stuff. It's like that. For better or for worse, you know, COVID kind of opened up everybody's world. And I think for Mike and like the Hornhead stuff, you know, he realized, or you know, whether it was convenience or whatever, he realized that, you know, on the back end, you can't really tell. I mean, it's like wild how you can't really tell that we're not in the same room. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like, you know, you can do a lot with room plugins. You can do a lot with all, you know, just plugins. Also, in this day and age, are insane, and you can make things sound as if they're not, or the other way around. So, when was the last time you were in a room with a bunch of horns recording?
With a bunch of horns recording. It's been a long time.
Been a long time.
Couple years. Yeah, a couple of years. I mean, I've done some stuff now. Like I have a trio in Chicago that just did a live show. We did my buddy has a really cool loft in Chicago. It used to be a corner store, so it's like on the corner in Chicago.
Yeah, I think I saw the video of that. It was in a room style recording.
Yeah, big room. And we haven't released anything yet. We had some like kind of teaser thing videos I've posted probably, but you know, we recorded there and had some people in the room, and, you know, was in the same room as other musicians, which is cool. And of course, like the cause thing with Corey Wong happened like in the thick of COVID, before the vaccine was available. That really messed with my head a lot. That was a tough one. That was like 15 people in the same room, you know, masks off.
Yeah, okay.
Before the vaccine. I mean, it was heavy. I mean, you know, everybody was like, hey, let's make a cause bubble. Let's lock down before we come and all that stuff. But and you know, everything was as safe as it could have been. But when we're filming, like we're recording and filming, it's like masks were off.
Yeah. Shit's live as.
Yeah, I mean, it was wild. I mean, it was definitely. I've never been like a nervous person, and it messed with my head a lot to be so heavily locked down for a year or whatever, and then to just be like, all right, peace. I'm gonna go hang out with 11 people in a big room. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Was it the fact that you were just you know you're literally in the room with people with no mask, like the whole, you know, the fear of getting sick? Was that was the thing?
I guess rooted in that, I suppose. Like, I don't know. Like, I think intellectually I wasn't afraid of getting sick because I was like, I'm a young person, I'm healthy. Like, the likelihood of me getting terribly ill if I get this is pretty low. Like, you know, intellectually I understood that. But yeah, it's like we were completely, like, as you know, I'm sure, like we didn't see anybody for like months and months and months. It was just our family, just our little family unit. And we'd see people outside or whatever. But like, you know, I went from that to being like, fuck it, here we go.
Yeah, thrown in the deep end. Yeah.
It was like, it was tough. And I got emotional on stage playing. We actually performed as well on that same trip. And I got like because people drove their cars up and parked to listen. That was like how they set it up. Yeah, which was cool. You know.
Yeah,
it was fun to play music again. But I was getting like emotional because I was like, man, I haven't even played music with anybody since this thing either. You know, so there was that added like, whoa, this is heavy.
Yeah, kind
of feeling. You know.
Yeah, that's wild, man. I am yet to sort of. I think maybe in like early 2021, I did a 50th birthday or something, but. It wasn't like it wasn't really a gig, and I think it was. I mean, it was a gig, but it wasn't a gig. But it was in one of our breaks from lockdown. But I don't think I really felt that real heavy, like, whoa, this is like kind of a thing to be in front of this many people or around this many people. But even in December, that was probably like December just gone. That was the time, because I went to one of my good friends' weddings and I was the best man, and yeah, it was just a packed venue, and I was sort of like, this is weird. Like, it's weird, and it was almost awkward to like be around that many people at once. And it was so strange because I'm like a totally social person. Like I thrive on being around a lot of people, or just being around people in general. Really bizarre kind of thing. And I wonder how it's like. It's obviously affected a lot of people mentally. Like even the fact that you went and did that gig and you got emotional just being in front of people and playing music. You got to imagine what it's doing for kids. With your kids, do you notice any potential social things that have changed since being in lockdown, or since the virus?
This is a talking point of people that are like against lockdowns and stuff. So what about the kids? I think kids are pretty adaptable, and I agree though. Like there were moments when I was like, they need to socialize. They need to be around other kids. Like this is a part of their development. And because Hobbs was so young when it hit, like Hobbs was 1 or something, now he was 2, maybe he's 4 now. Yeah. And, when we first started to bring him to preschool, he goes to preschool for 2 hours only twice a week, 2 hours twice a week. Okay. And it's just real chill. It's just like a playtime basically with other kids, with some teachers around. And he was very like Augie. The first time we left him at a thing like that, he was like, peace out, guys. Woo! And Hobbs was like bawling. Like he was the kid who didn't want us to leave and would cry and cry and cry. And when we left, like the teachers would text us 10 minutes or 15 minutes later and go, all right, he has stopped crying now. Everything's okay. Okay. Because we'd be texting him like, is everything all right? Is he still crying? We're like, should we be dropping off? Should we not be dropping him off? Yeah. And now he loves it and does it. It's just twice a week for a couple hours each time. I don't, there's a whole thing about like whether or not we should be like very heavily trying to educate young kids. It's like we should just be giving them opportunities to play, basically, and sort of like play-based learning, really. And that's what this place is. So we feel good about that. But there was definitely like, are we what are we doing the right thing? Should we send him there? Should we not send him there? Yeah. And I wondered like, hey, is this because of COVID? Like he's just been around his parents all the time. He's never away from us. And that just wasn't the case with Og. He was able to hang out. At the very least, he was with family or whatever. Away from us. From time to time.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, look. At least he had you guys. Like, he was hanging around some cool cats. That's good. Yeah. But Libby and I were talking about kids, and because she works at a gift store, and so people will come in with their kids, and everyone has masks on, so kids never get to see. They see this. It's like, are you smiling, or are you mad at me? I think it's a very interesting psychological topic that I'm absolutely not qualified to talk about.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah, the qualifications thing. I do think that kids and everybody probably are kind of getting used to reading people's eyes and around their eyes. It's like we have facial expressions up here too. Yeah, absolutely. So I do think there's an element of like, oh, wait, I can kind of tell what's going on. But man, it is pretty wild landscape out there.
It is. Are you guys, just last question about lockdown? Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be the last question, but are you guys locked down? You guys aren't still locked down?
No. Okay. No, we're not locked down. No. Yes. And I feel a bit like I'm partying like it's 2019 right now because I had it in January and I vaccinated and boosted and I got it and I was on the road with my students. I booked a tour for my students before Omicron, right? Yeah. Or Omicron or whatever, however you say it. And I just decided, you know what, we're going to go through with it. Let's just do it. Yeah. And hopefully it'll be all right. And I booked a gig with my quintet at the same time. So my quintet played this club show at Crooners in Minneapolis and my students opened for us. And we rehearsed for 3 hours with my band, like Tuesday night of the tour. that day, that actually while I was at the rehearsal, a student of mine called me and was like, I'm feeling sick. You know, it's like one of the students who was on the tour. So he, as it turned out, we didn't know until we got back, but as it turned out, he came to tour with COVID.
Oh.
And yeah, nice, huh?
Sweet.
And then the day of my show, my keyboard player, my piano player, is really awesome piano player in Minneapolis. He called me and he goes, I'm so sorry, man. I just tested positive this morning. I was feeling kind of crappy. It's like I was drinking last night, so I thought maybe it was that. And, you know, it turns out I have COVID. And I was like, no! It was the day of the show, you know? All
rough.
this new music, no recordings, you know? And so I called one of my former students, Kavish Kaviraj, who's this really badass keyboard player, and he showed up and completely crushed it.
Nice.
And then a few days later, of course, I tested positive. When we got home, I wore my mask around my family for a day, and then I took it off thinking like, it's been a day, I feel all right. And then I started feeling symptoms and I put it back on and tested positive.
Gotcha,
And then it was like I had symptoms for 2 days. It was super mild. I got to attribute that to the vaccine and the booster.
Yeah.
I felt good, you know, and now because I just had it, it's like there's this 90-day window where like you're probably not going to get it. So
yeah,
I was in North Dakota. I was at bars. I was having drinks. I was hanging out with people. Like, hey, what's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? You know, so it's totally different. Different Adam. Back to 2019 Adam.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I'm trying to get back there. I'm trying to get back to party days, but I have too many projects on. No, there's not.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, man, I used to party real hard. I used to party really, really hard when I was younger. And I feel like I've done my quota of partying. You know, I've filled that quota.
Yeah.
I'll have a little party here and there, but yeah. Anytime I party
I'm sure people
now,
that really know me and that heard me just say that, they're like, Meckler doesn't party. What is he talking about? Like that's not really. I was always the one that was like, guys, we have class. You're playing Super Smash Brothers. You know,
it's
let's
1 a.m.
We have sightseeing class at 8 a.m. That was totally me, man. I was always giving people shit about smoking weed all the time, drinking and stuff.
Were you? Look, I don't know if I can picture that. Maybe. How long ago was this?
I mean, like, I just like to play my horn, man. Like that was all I cared about, especially at that time. I had no interest in any kind of mind-altering thing. I was like, I just want to play. I just want to practice. So I'm generally like a focused person. You know, you met me with kids, so it's a little more chaotic. But
yeah,
I'm a very driven, focused person. You know, so I'm constantly trying to do the next thing and.
Yeah.
And
no, I respect that. My thing is always like, you know, because I've been playing for 15 years. My thing was always just play the gig first and then let's party. Like, and I definitely know people that are, you know, like, well, let's just get absolutely sideways and play a gig. I'm like, yeah, but then the gig's gonna suck, and then like I'm gonna want to party less afterwards because I just played a shit set, you know.
Yeah, totally. I'm with you on that. Totally. I think there's definitely healthy balances too. I'm all about moderation. You know, I'm all about moderation.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm curious. You know, I'm curious about your track making now that you're making your own music. You know, you spent so much time in the ad space, and your workflow you've probably fell into a workflow rhythm with the ad space. Is your workflow different when you're creating a track now that you're going to release under your name that's maybe 2.5 minutes long as opposed to 30 seconds? What's your process like?
I have a very, very sporadic process. I don't know. I think it's one of those things like I can never force a song out. Obviously, I don't think anyone can, but like it's sort of hard for me to like answer that question because it's like when I get in a zone, it might happen once a week, or it might happen 3 times a week, or it might happen for the whole week, or it might not happen. It might happen once in a month. So like when I'm in that zone, I've just got to like go hard, and I'll usually go like I'll start in the morning and I'll just go till like 3 a.m. or something, and just hammer it the whole day. But like in terms of like maybe how a song comes from wherever it comes from, it's usually like I'm writing in Logic. Like I'm sort of just piecing things together in Logic, which has its benefits. So it's usually the thing where I'll get a verse section down, I'll get a drum groove, bass groove, and then maybe a vocal top line, or maybe I'll just kind of stack things on. And I usually like to just like add every possible thing I can think of or will fit, and then just mute stuff, and then just kind of add them in,
interesting.
methodically throughout the song. So I'll try and get like the heaviest, grooviest part of the song down, and then just strip it back. Or slightly alter parts until it's like it's building to the groove if it's going to go that way. But yeah, like I'll sort of do that in Logic, and I'll piece things together in Logic, and it's usually like cool verse, chorus. How do I stitch these together? Like is it a drum fill or is it a big moving chordal thing up to the chorus or whatever it is. So it's kind of like that, and like it's definitely fun, and it's definitely easy to do it that way, as opposed to like getting a whole chord structure down for a whole song and memorizing it and then just playing it live or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of it's easy sometimes to do that, but the downfalls of that are like I'll write myself out of parts. Like I'll write myself, like Stitch Up, for example, which I think you know that one. It's like the guitar. Yep. I cannot play the guitar and sing the part at the same time, because it's like I'm not thinking about vocals when I'm doing guitar. I'm just like, how do I make this guitar like the slappiest thing it needs to be? And then so I mean, look, I'm sure with a little bit of practice I can get there, but it's like another.
But when you're layering parts, you don't need to, right? It's like you can really focus on one thing at a time.
Exactly. And that is like I love being in the studio. I've always loved like creating, editing and creating things, just seeing them come together in a Logic session or in a DAW session, and just like hearing the thing once it's done. It's like that is so satisfying to me. And so I really love being a studio musician, a studio producer. I think my chops have suffered quite a lot. Like I rarely pick up the guitar more than just for more than just to record a part, which is kind of weird, because I used to do this pub gig at a pub just sort of like 10-15 minutes from here, and I used to play like 3 45-minute sets in a night, and just acoustic and vocal. And
oh wow.
Yeah.
Solo
sometimes with a cajon player.
Nice.
But it was like, it was pub songs like Jesse's Girl and all that kind of stuff. People in Aussie pubs get rowdy, and they request Jesse's Girl like 4 times a night. I'm like, yeah, all right.
Nice. Fills up some of your sets. All right.
Yeah. I used to mess with it and just like just replace minor chords with major chords and see if anyone noticed. But they never did. But
that's good. That's like on the job reharming. Man.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Oh, the reharms were always awful. They were never good. They never worked.
Sure. Hey.
Yeah. But so my playing chops have suffered heaps, and I've actually, funnily enough, lost the ability to sing and play well. Like I'll kind of, if I'm going and the vocal is like I'll be like, you ain't get no, and it's just like I can't left brain right brain anymore, which is like confronting. It's a little confronting. So when it comes to things like thinking about touring and all that stuff, I'm like, I got to practice for a good couple of months.
Shed, baby.
Yeah, I got to shed hard.
Got to shed.
Which is scary.
I never play, like when I play guitar, it's never hard enough that I can't sing and play at the same time. Although like I did learn a couple, like I just recently learned a John Mayer song, and it was like a little more stuff going on the guitar.
Yeah.
And I was practicing singing and playing at the same time. It's been fun. It's nice. It's
electric?
A fun skill.
Did you play electric guitar?
I play acoustic guitar. I have played electric, but I really haven't played it a lot. Like acoustic guitar has always kind of been. I grew up in the '90s, man. Acoustic rock. Was the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was in like a acoustic rock band in high school, and I sang and played guitar, and I bring up my flugelhorn. I'd play flugelhorn sometimes. And we all took turns playing bass because nobody wanted to play bass, so I'd play bass sometimes,
How the times have changed. Bass is the hottest thing.
Yeah, man. I love bass. I play bass all the time now, man. I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I keep seeing, I just saw a video of Fearless Flyers with 2 basses.
I haven't seen that video. Should I say it?
Yeah, I mean, it's funky, whatever,
Yeah, okay.
Up to you. That stuff, it's like, it's great. That stuff's great. It's not the stuff that I sit around and listen to. To be totally honest, like that's, I know a lot of people love like the Wolf thing and the Fearless Flyers thing. It's like, it's cool, but it's not what I sit around and listen to.
Yeah,
all
yeah.
the time.
I really like those guys. I have a lot of respect for all those musicians. I think.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think the Fearless Flyers things. It's like, it's insanely like, it's niche. It's niche. I don't think it's my niche, but like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Nate Smith is just even if I don't watch it for like, or don't listen to it for the music, just to like watch and listen to Nate Smith play. It's like, what the hell?
Nate Smith definitely makes it all worth it. I mean, it's all great. It's obviously everything they do is great.
Yeah,
There's nothing. It's great. It's great. There's nothing wrong with it. you know.
Yeah.
And I did actually. This isn't that group of musicians, but I spent a whole bunch of time listening to the Dirty Loops Corey Wong album. I really enjoyed that, and that was the first time I listened to an album all the way through in a while, and I thought, man, this is not long enough. I need more.
Yeah, right.
Give me more. I think it's just like 6 tracks or something.
I think I only heard Thriller. I think that's the only one I heard.
Yeah.
Which is...
Yeah, well, that's pretty banging.
Yeah, it was wild in that. Was it like a 6/8 or 12/8 groove?
Yeah.
That was weird. It was weird. I thought it was weird for like, I don't know. I think I've only heard it twice. I was like, whoa. But it's wild. I can say that.
I mean, I really dug it. I'm also a pretty big fan of Dirty Loops, and so that sound and the way that they reharm things and they're like overproduced whatever. sound.
Yeah.
Like,
I love Dirty Loops.
I used to run to that. I was like, hit me, boom, boom. I was like, yeah, I'm running.
I love how they did Baby. It's like baby. Yeah. And the fucking bass solo in that is wild.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
yes, it is.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Well, man, we did it. We did it.
How long was this? Was
it's like an hour almost.
It was a good chat. It's a good
we
podcast.
Did good.
Yeah.
It took us a little time to get started, but
yeah.
Thanks for hanging with me. I appreciate it. It's crazy to me that it's like tomorrow for you.
Yeah, dude, it's the future. It's Thursday, and
the future.
Things in the future are looking bleak.
Looking bleak? Oh
no, that's fine. It's
I need hope. Come on.
It's like you're in Fahrenheit. I don't know. I want to say it's like 20. No, it's about 24 degrees Celsius. So I don't know what the conversion on that is.
So what is that? I don't even
like medium warm.
Medium warm. So here, it's balmy.
It's balmy.
A balmy. No. It's a balmy 25 degrees Fahrenheit, which is quite cold. It's not that cold. I mean, like Minneapolis will be, negative 60 wind chill. It's like insane. Negative 40 wind chill. And when I was out in Grand Forks, I was like, dude, it was -1 here where I live, and we live up in the UP, and there's like lots of hills, and there's a canal, and the Lake Superior surrounds us, so it's like lake effect snow. We get tons and tons and tons of snow. Usually the temperatures are mild, but -1 here, I mean, like -1 in Grand Forks, I thought I was gonna die. Like -1 here feels so much different. It doesn't feel quite as cold. And I don't know what, like the wind probably.
Yeah,
it's very flat in the Dakotas. It's very flat.
Yeah, right.
So it's just like wind. You get crushed. I was walking from my car to the high school where I was doing a guest artist thing, and man, it was like I was like, I gotta get my hands in my pockets.
It sounds like
frostbite.
Death. That sounds like death. I'm gonna look up very quickly what Fahrenheit to Celsius, what 1 degree is, because I don't.
Dude, how sad that neither of us know this.
Yeah, I know. Did you say -1 Fahrenheit?
-1 Fahrenheit. So right now it's 25.
Oh my god! The coldest it gets here is about 30 Fahrenheit.
Okay. Yeah.
So not cold compared to your standards. Thinking about
cold,
negative 18 degrees Celsius. I'm like, how my brain can't. I can't do it.
Yeah. Oh man, we'll get to -18. Real temp -10, -15 in Minneapolis sometimes. Certainly in North Dakota. I mean, like I never lived in North Dakota, but the Dakotas like me for some reason, so they asked me to come
keep having you back.
Come hang with their students a bunch.
Yeah. That's wild. I mean, yeah, we need to do a swapsy at some point. You need to come here, and then, well, I'm gonna be there at some point, hopefully this year. But you definitely need to come here.
We'd love to come. We'd love to come for sure.
Dude, awesome. It's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous country. I sound like a spokesperson for Australian tourism. No, it is. It's a gorgeous country.
It's a gorgeous country.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous country in Australia. Come down and have a good time.
I thought you were going to say have a Foster's.
No one drinks.
That's not Australian for beer. Nobody here drinks Foster's.
Yeah, is that a thing? Do you have Foster's there?
Yeah, I mean, they say there's this commercial that's really famous here in the States. It's like, Foster's, Australian for beer.
That's not true.
That's what they say. That's their tagline.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
but they told us that, Jaron. It has to be true.
Look, you can come here and drink a Foster's. Someone may try to fight you.
I want to drink an authentic Australian beer, man. Let me have this Foster's.
Oh, God. Foster's is like cold urine.
Ooh. Yeah.
Frothy.
Yeah, we have some beers like that here.
Yeah. There's a beer I do like that's, I think, is American. Budweiser?
Budweiser.
The tagline here is, like, I don't know if it's the same in the States, but the tagline on the bottles is King of Beers. Is that the thing there?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
King of Beers.
I don't think it's the King of Beers.
No, I don't think officially. Like, it's not dubbed. Is that?
I don't know. Is there a crown? I don't even remember. I don't remember. I don't drink Budweiser really, but Budweiser was like famous. Excuse me. In the 90s, they had this commercial that was like, "Wazza."
I remember that. I've seen that.
Right? They do that,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
the guy would go "Wazza," and then he'd go "Wazza," and they'd be like, or no, that wasn't it. That was one.
Yeah, but
there was
they'd be
another
like,
one that was,
they'd be
"I love
just
you,
drinking
man."
a bud.
It'd be like, "I love you, man."
Yeah.
That was it. It was "I love you, man," and they would go, okay, like, or he'd go, "I love you too," and he'd be like, "No, I love you, man." And he goes, "You're still not getting my Bud Light." It was a Bud Light commercial.
Okay.
You're still not getting my Bud Light. I just remember that when I was a kid.
Yeah, I remember the What's That one because the tagline was just was it sitting on the couch drinking a bud? Was that it?
Probably.
I think that was it.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
What beer do you
Let's
drink?
cycle through all of our beer commercials. What beer do I drink?
Yeah, what's your beer of choice?
I mean, like, if I'm being totally honest, I don't like beer a whole lot.
Okay. What's your drink of choice?
I've never really liked beer, but, like, I do like whiskey, and I like to drink. It's not really whiskey sour, but if you make whiskey, if you do like whiskey, lemon juice, and simple syrup, that was a thumbs up.
It got cut off.
That was a thumbs up. Yeah, that's probably my favorite drink right now. I do occasionally. There's a brewery called Bell's here in Michigan, actually, but I've been drinking it before I moved to Michigan. And they have a beer called Oberon that I like. I like drinkable beers. My dad, it's like my dad drank Miller Lite. That was like the only thing he ever drank.
Yeah.
And so and he never drank more than one, really. It was like he'd come home and he'd drink one and he'd fall asleep on the couch watching the Steelers or something.
Yeah, okay.
Old VHS tapes of the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is a football team, which is an American football team.
I got
in the United.
I didn't think it was a band or something. So watching reruns of live gigs.
Watching reruns of live shows. Speaking of VR and the metaverse. Speaking of live shows, reruns.
Yeah.
I wonder how I finally put on one of those Oculus, they're called.
Yeah, Oculus. Yeah, another one.
For the first time, because the band director where I was doing a guest thing in South Dakota last week, he had one, and he goes, "You got to try it, man." And I was like, "All right, I'm going to try it." And it's crazy. I like rode on a roller coaster with dinosaurs and shit, and like I played some golf, and like I was holding this, I can fucking see the golf club. I was like, this is crazy, and I was swinging it. I mean, it was amazing, and I thought, man, when this gets better, when it's like you don't have to wear a huge gigantic thing on your face.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, man. If that's like Elon Musk's
Yeah,
Neuralink
like,
and you have a chip in your brain,
yeah.
or if it's like little glasses or something. But
the glasses just get smaller.
Well, phones did,
Yeah,
it's
but
like
then
eventually
phones got way bigger.
Become,
like
it's insane.
Maybe the trend with VR is that they're just going to do what phones did. They'll get really small, like Trinity from the Matrix glasses, but then they'll get real big, like 90s or like 2000s Karen glasses. Maybe it'll just be a trend. But
sure.
I've tried one of those. I think I've tried it once, but it was on this gnarly, super gnarly, like, you know, you put the glasses on, get the whole thing, and you would sit in a thing that moves. So, like, I was on a roller coaster.
So you actually feel it.
It was like terrifying. I was like, holy shit, this is fucking real. You know, it was really wild. But the other thing is,
I felt like I had a little bit of motion sickness, and I don't ever have motion sickness. But when I did the roller coaster, and I think it was because I didn't have the accompanying like chair moving me.
Yeah.
So you feel like it's very weird feeling.
Yeah, well, I think that's essentially like is motion sickness if you can see you're moving, but you can't feel you're moving.
Oh, is that what it is?
I think that's the reason why people get motion. Like on boats, you can like see that the thing's moving, but if you're on a really big boat, it doesn't feel like it's really moving.
Ah,
yeah,
interesting.
So yeah, I think I usually don't get it, but I could probably imagine if I was in that situation where I was seeing all of this crazy stuff happen, and I was doing all this, it would be a very weird disconnect to not be moving. It kind of freaks me out a little.
There was a little like spiral thing with a red dot in the middle, and it said, "Stare at this if you start to feel motion sickness." And so I basically just stared at that thing the whole time. I've never experienced motion sickness in my life, actually. Like I grew up going to Six Flags Great America and riding on Batman, roller coaster, like going 60, 70 miles an hour. So I was like, oh, I'll be fine. Let's do a dinosaur roller coaster. And then I was like, oh my, and the people who owned the Oculus, he was like, you might feel sick. Everybody that I've done this with has felt sick.
Yeah, that's wild, dude.
So that's the problem they got to solve.
Yeah, well, I guess we just get big machines that, or just get Jana to like next time you get it, just get her to like push you in a little office chair,
just shake me around,
just tilt you around. Yeah, dude. There was another thing I saw. And I wish I had the link to send you right now or something so we could both look at it. But it's like something that you wear somewhere. I'm being so bad and so vague with the details, but you can listen to music inside your head.
Whoa!
Have you ever seen about this?
I have heard of a technology where they pass your hearing from one ear to the other if you're deaf in one ear, and they use the bone behind your ear, and they like stick something to the bone behind your ear, and it's like because of the vibrations, your ear can make out the sound.
Whoa!
So it's not actually your eardrum; it's like something else. I don't. Maybe it is your eardrum. I don't know.
Just a vibrating thing, I guess.
It's the vibration, and so you can hear. Apparently, it's like really groundbreaking, and it's relatively new. Yeah,
right. That's insane. I think this. I'm not sure if this thing I'm talking about was some kind of implant, but basically the thing is you can have 360-degree immersive sound, but no one. So it's essentially like it's playing out loud, but no one else can hear it. Only you can hear it.
Holy.
So no headphones, no nothing. Just I guess it's in your own head, which is insane. I'll send you the link once we, if you want to put it in the thing, people can read it. But yeah, I'll send you the thing. It's gnarly.
Yeah, actually, that's a great idea. I'm gonna put that on my list of stuff to talk about. Music implant thing.
Yeah, music in head.
Question mark? Music in head.
Not in the crazy way.
Yeah. I think that's so interesting, and I do think a lot about like now because cryptocurrency is becoming such a big thing. And NFTs and everything, and experiential things like VR, like going to a concert. When is that going to be like? It's a live concert you can attend, unlimited numbers of people can attend, and when you stand there, and this is what's cool about the Oculus. It's like when you stand there and somebody else has an Oculus and you're in the same room, you can literally like you're standing next to them.
Yeah,
it looks like you're standing next to them. Their avatars are right there.
Yeah.
So like the technology is going to be like. I'm in a concert with a whole bunch of other people that are also in this concert, and it looks like I'm here, and it sounds like I'm here, and I can see people.
Yeah. Well,
then the crypto thing is like you could pay for tickets. Maybe you're tipping the band while they're playing. Maybe you're buying merch during the show, and you're using ETH or you're using whatever Doge.
Yeah. Like if they can get this, like I assume it'll be a headphone style scenario, but if you can get it to feel, these guys got to link up with these in the ear, in the head music things, but if they can get it to a way where, production wise, where it sounds like you're at a live gig, like you are in a auditorium or a stadium or whatever, then that's the ticket. Like, I think that would be the best way to actually be fully immersed in the thing. Because if it's like,
Yep.
if it's like you're in a room with a VR, awesome. But if you're hearing like, if you're hearing a Spotify track, it's kind of weird. But if they can get it to
Totally,
they can get it to feel like it's a gig.
Then you're talking like Prince, some kind of Prince show, or like Michael Jackson.
Yeah,
it's like then you're attending like maybe something that already happened.
Yeah,
as an option. I mean, it's like an interesting. I feel like it's gonna happen. It's only a matter of time. And the technology, like you said, they got to link up with the people where they can hear the audio. It's like that's gonna happen.
Yeah,
if the technology exists, like they're gonna figure that shit out, and they're gonna. They're going to create something where people can have those experiences. I don't think we're that far away from that.
No, I think all the pieces are. I think all the pieces are already there. It's just like you need the corporate interest to make the move.
Yeah. Now there's tons of VC dollars going into that, and we're Gig Boss is a little bit in that startup world where we're pitching venture capitalists, and so like I've got my finger on the pulse of that a little bit, and it's like there's so much money going into blockchain companies, tech companies, crypto companies. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. It's all. I'm not super in the. I mean, I have a little bit of crypto invested, but I'm not. I don't know. I actually shamefully should know more about it. The label I'm a part of, Antihero Records, is an NFT based label, a crypto based label. So, my man Tori, who's based in Rancho Cucamonga, which is like, as far as I know, it's just outside of LA. Do you know this place?
No.
Okay, it's a wild name. I like the name, but
it is a great name.
Yeah, he's he's sort of he set this label up, and he's also got his finger on the pulse, and he's right into it. But it's all pretty wild. It seems wild to me because I don't know enough about it. That's like that's the whole thing.
Well, yeah, and there's going to be a period of time where people learn more about it, and where people see more than just. There's fraud happening in the space right now, and I think there's a lot of people that are like, it takes too much energy, and those are all legit concerns that need to be solved by somebody. And I think there are genuine people really trying to make things better, and those are the people that are continuing to program and continuing to work, continuing to build companies while all this other stuff is happening in the periphery.
Yes.
And so I think in the long run, those are the companies that are going to win. I was going to say. Man, I got an email from the record label owner, Rope-A-Dope, where I've been releasing a couple of records with my big band, and Lewis was like, the whole NFT thing is completely changing the landscape of music, and we need to be with it. We need to figure this out, and so we're making, we're going to make purposeful strides towards becoming a part of that scene, or finding a way to use NFTs to make our artists money, which I think is such a cool thing. People that are going to listen to this podcast are going to hear me talk about this on a lot of episodes, and I know some people are going to be rolling their eyes, but I think there's so much potential to solve the fan to artist relationship problem that Spotify kind of poses. For whatever. I mean, I'm also reading. Let me show you. I'm also reading this, which is, oh my goodness, you can't see it. Hey, you can see his face. Oh, it says "Work Hard, Playlist Hard."
Okay.
Which is a book about playlists and stuff. Getting your music on playlists on Spotify. So, I am fascinated in like how to capitalize on that as well.
I'm gonna write that down.
But I do feel like
I'm gonna write that. What's that? Work Hard, Playlist Hard.
Yeah, Work Hard, Playlist Hard. It's by Mike Warner. Warner.
Warner. Okay. Work hard.
Yeah, I'll put this in the show notes too. I'm planning on. There's another episode where I talked to a guy who introduced me to this book, and I went and bought it as soon as I talked to him. This is why this podcast is gonna be so cool, man, because I'm also learning all this shit.
Yeah.
Oh, what should I be checking out?
Yeah.
So I just read this one. Because I've been traveling a lot, I got time to read again finally.
Yeah.
This is Tracks That Sync. Tracks That Sync. Oh, they're gonna blur it out. Whatever.
Okay.
It's called Tracks That Sync. It's by Graham Barton.
Is that is it talking in a stylistic sense?
Yeah, in a stylistic sense,
okay.
in like a how to get started sense. listen to ads and make some notes about what they do, see if you can copy certain things exactly as an exercise, a bunch of like do's and don'ts. I mean, I've been taking notes. I've been reading and taking notes. It's really a fantastic, tracks that sync sound authentic as fuck. That's the title of one of the chapters.
I bet the first
creative, relevant, high value, has to sound real, from production to whatever. It's really interesting, and there's a lot of parallels to traditional composing and like writing music for big band, and like, am I thinking about who my audience is? Am I not? Am I able to maintain some level of artistic integrity while I also try to serve a population? Like, it's a really interesting conundrum, I think.
Definitely a different landscape. I bet the first rule of that book is don't put a natural 11 on a major 7, right?
Oh yeah, I always got to sharp that 11, baby. Come on.
Yeah.
Always give me that Lydian sound.
Hey, it's something from music, from the Water Walkway. You go is that a 4 on that major 7? Oh no. That.
Okay, so.
Yeah, but
yeah, there's a 4 there. So yes, I was gonna actually say this. You can use the 4 on a major 7. It just has. I mean, in my mind,
has to
it
resolve.
can be very soulful. It has to go down to the 3. It has to have some relationship to the 3. So I tell my students a lot, like, you can do that. Blah 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 blah. Blah blah. That's a thing that like old jazz musicians they would do those old 4 3 4 3 4 3.
Yeah, I like
blues and stuff. Yeah. 4 5 3.
But you did it pretty brashly there. You kind of went ba-da-da-ba, ba-da-da. I was like, oh, that's we need to talk about that.
Well, I think also part of the idea was that I was playing with intervals of a fifth, so I was trying to make these wider intervals in melodies,
right?
And because so much of my writing in the past has been linear, and so I've been thinking about how a lot of melodies that I enjoy have wider leaps, and like, could I find a way to incorporate that into my music a little bit more? And so that was an intentional, like, I'm trying to use a certain interval, which is probably why it landed on the 4. If it landed on the 4, I'm gonna have to check that.
I reckon it does. Because it's a little. It rubs.
I like that you're calling me out on that.
Yeah, it rubs.
Oh, is that what you think, Meckler? You think you should sharp the 11? Well, what about this song?
What about this
released?
really good song that I like? I think
is good, but you did it.
But yeah, you did it. No, that's an interesting thing, and I've, funnily enough, been thinking about that because I've always been like this guy of like good, trying to do effective voice leading. So I'll always stray away melodically from trying to do big leaps. And I think there's a Theo Katzman song that's like, cause it's making me sick, cause I'm falling in love. So it's just straight up the major scale. And I think I try to do that in a couple of my songs. And I always think about like, does it just need to cruise up as little gaps as possible? But I think that's definitely an avenue that I've never explored, of like making big leaps and trying to make large, intervallic melodies that sound really nice.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I usually think linearly as well. I think scalarly. But I don't know, man. Like, a lot of great melodies have big leaps.
Oh yeah.
Somewhere over the rainbow. It's, like some iconic.
Yeah.
Melodies with huge leaps in them.
Yeah.
There's also like the Simpsons melody, and it's like the opening with tritones and opening with other bigger intervals. It's those are iconic for depends on sort of how you view iconic, I guess. I mean, it's not like a pop song, but those are like iconic theme songs.
It's like I mean, in that case, in The Simpsons, it's like a statement.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Maria, right? There's that too.
yeah.
I just met a girl named Maria.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da.
I think so that's definitely something I think for the next album I'm just gonna try not writing any notes that are like a second apart.
There you go.
Always bigger
That'd be
than
a
a
fun
second.
exercise.
Yeah.
I was just practicing out of this Bobby Shoe book. It has all these really badass chord licks. I'm practicing a lot of fourths and stuff too. I was like fourths and like Lydian content, that stuff. Like, it was like Woody Shaw land.
Yeah.
That's a great trumpet player. Big fan of Woody Shaw. I've been trying to get more of that sound. I couldn't appreciate Woody Shaw until sort of like more recently.
I don't think I've heard any Woody Shaw, or maybe I have, but I don't know I have.
Well, I mean, whatever, man. If you're not a trumpet player, there's a lot of great language in his playing. I mean, that's really, he's really deep harmonically. And I think he was, some jazz musicians maybe like Meckler speaking out of turn, but I think he was really the first horn player to do that, to really take that language and expand on. I think probably Herbie was doing it first on keyboard, maybe. But like in terms of horn players, Woody Shaw was one of the people that really brought that sound to the forefront.
Yeah, okay.
Quartal stuff. Oh, of course, in terms of actual quartal harmony, I mean, like McCoy Tyner played with Coltrane.
Yeah.
All that stuff, that he was playing on A Love Supreme and that stuff. That's all. He's voicing chords and fourths. But as a horn player, it's different, to play a linear instrument and to be jumping around like that, especially a linear instrument where, if you don't hear the note before you play it, you're throwing darts.
Yeah,
you're
just guessing.
like,
yeah.
I hope I'm getting this note right.
Yeah, well, I mean, guitar is arguably the easiest instrument to do that on. You just move your hand like just down a string. It's like, oh, cool.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think about that too with like playing in and out or transposing licks to different keys. It's like guitar. It's like. Are you
talking about going down the neck?
Well, yeah, like down or up. You can shape a line and just move your finger up a fret, and you can now play that same line up a half step. I mean, it's like on trumpet, you got to learn a whole new set of fingerings and.
Yeah. I think I believe guitar is one of the worst and best instruments. Like I would never recommend anyone learn it, but I get a lot of joy out of playing pentatonic licks, and then if I need to go out of the box, I just play pentatonic upper semitone.
I like playing pentatonic. Yeah, that makes sense if you're a guitar player. Pentatonic, man.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the jam. I mean, I practice pentatonics all the time on the trumpet too. I'm all about it. With my guitar playing is pretty rudimentary. I mean, it's like play chords. I can play enough chords I can write songs.
That's all you need.
Not have it sound totally.
Yeah, you've already got a good language on an instrument that is not dumb. No, guitar's a great instrument.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, no, guitar's a great instrument. It's just like, I've always been envious of jazz players because I think I'm jazz minded. I'm not a jazz player though,
Yeah.
Like I'm definitely jazz minded, but I cannot, like, you stick changes in front of me and I'm like, okay. I got to work stuff out, I got to sit down and be like, all right, cool, I'll do this lick 3. Yeah, cool. Okay, it's definitely not like, it's not fluent. I'm not a fluent jazz player at all, but
There's
always
an old joke that if you want to get a guitar player to turn down, you put sheet music in front of them.
Yeah. And it's true. Joke. It's true. But I'm so envious, and I'm always like, yeah, cool. When I finish this album or when I finish this thing, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna just shed for like 6 months and learn to be a killer jazz guitarist. But
I think you're better off being like, oh, I appreciate this one jazz guitar thing that I heard. And then taking that and doing your own thing, man. Like you're way better off getting the peripheral inspiration and then turning it into your own thing. You're way better off.
Yeah, I really like
actually going way deep in it.
And because it's like
don't ruin your music, man. You're making some great music right now.
It's got to be a lifestyle choice. It's like I have to change my lifestyle.
Oh yeah,
like in order to.
You got to dedicate your whole being to that.
Yeah,
and I still feel like I'm a noob. I mean, it's like I'm 37 and I've been studying it infectiously since I was in middle school.
Yeah.
I started really listening to Louis Armstrong and Ella Fitzgerald in middle school, and Wynton Marsalis and Miles Davis.
Yeah.
And so like I got deep, middle school, high school, and then college was like 8 hours a day, and all I was listening to was jazz, and I wasn't listening to anything else, and it's like that got me to where I was after college, I suppose. I mean, it still feels like I'm learning every day. I'll be playing with somebody and I'll be like, "Yo, what did you play over that day?" You know?
Yeah.
It's like always.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you feel like you've stopped learning, then stop playing.
Yeah. There's that element that it's really a beautiful thing to always be in a space of learning, you know. And I feel like I told you I've been showing you the books I've been reading.
Yeah.
I really feel like I'm leveling up right now too. Like I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to learn more about my industry, how I can function better. Maybe I can start to make more passive income in those spaces potentially in the future as I get better at my work on Pro Tools and Logic and stuff. We were talking about that a little bit before we were recording. But just learning that, I guess we talked about it in the podcast. You know, starting to learn that 6 years ago. It's like I'd really like to explore that space a little bit. It's you know, there's always something in music to learn. Yeah,
well, if it's not, you know, consistently learning the instrument, it's like, and I'm guilty myself of not really knowing, and like I've sort of been trying over the last year to sort of get into a more industry-minded mindset. I think there will be a time for me to do that a little bit more once, you know, I get through production and blah, 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 and the song, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I feel a little bit like shit. I'm out of my depth when it comes to, like, because, you know, spoiler alert, I messaged you before the thing was like, don't ask me about licensing, I don't know about it. So I was kind of like, oh man, like I was kind of annoyed that, like, to have to be like, can you not ask me about that, because I don't know. And it, like, even, you know, like even though I spent like almost 4 years doing that, or almost 3 years doing that, it's like, yeah, I've definitely
that is interesting to me that you were in that space and don't really know much about it. It's like you made the tracks and you passed them off, and you did have, I mean, in my mind, you know a lot about it, because that's really all it is. And then ultimately it's like once you have the ability to make tracks that smash or that have a big boom in them or whatever, then you can upload those tracks to databases and you can start to get licensing deals. I mean, it's like that's really all it is.
Yeah, well, I guess if that's what it is, then I'm an expert. No, but like I definitely
then I am an expert.
No, I definitely know about making the tracks boom, and that's I mean, that is in itself is kind of a weird, difficult thing, especially if, you know, you have the parameters aforementioned by the client or the company or whatever it is. But in the sense of like the company itself, it was a little gatekeepy. Like I would never talk to the client.
Sure.
It was always the middleman of the company, and like, to be honest, I was fine with that.
Well, they don't want you going right.
Going
they
rogue.
probably don't
they
want
don't want
you
me
going to
rogue.
the client because they don't want you going rogue.
Yeah, and that's fair enough. But, you know, funnily enough, that the guy who owns that company, Audio Force, very tyrannical dude. Like, you know, probably had some issues growing up related to his daddy issues. It's fine. Everyone has them, or some people have them.
Wow.
But he was wild, man. Like I just heard, because I quit there start of this year, and I started last year. Sorry, and I got word from the friend who works in Thailand who was working there, and he said that this guy had just hired a new intern. His name's Thomas. So Thomas had just hired a new intern, and the intern didn't really know much about the company or how to run things or how to do things or anything. They're an intern. So Thomas threatened that if she made another mistake, he would close the company. This is like, you have not ever worked for someone this wild. When I was over there working in Berlin, he once took the bins away from us because someone had put a coffee in there. And I had to be like, dude, just give us the bins back. That's why there's rubbish everywhere. It's fine. We'll just won't put hot, full drinks in there. It's fine. We understand. Absolutely chaotic dude. And like, you know, he's got a soft side, and we kind of developed this very playful relationship, but it was chaos working for this dude, man. Like,
that's incredible. He sounds he's German. It's a German
very
company,
German. Like,
he sounds German.
The very, very rude, stereotypical version of a German person. He was the fucking embodiment of that.
Yeah. My sister lived over there for a while, 5 years. She lived in Leipzig for 5 years.
Oh yeah, that seems like Berlin's not like, people over there will tell you Berlin is not Germany. It's just like this weird cluster of multiculturalism and just partying and just everything that Germany isn't known for. That's Berlin.
And Eastern Germany in general is a lot different than Western Germany.
Very,
right? I mean, like
very.
Berlin is Eastern, so is Leipzig. Leipzig is Eastern.
Is Leipzig
Germany
kind of the same? Like, is it like that?
Well, I think it's pretty small, and it's famous for like being the place that Bach famously hitchhiked there to study with Buxtehude, the organ player, you know, and then Bach became like the organist, I think, at a church there in Leipzig, and played on those organs. And I love this story about Bach because the congregation wrote a letter to the diocese or whatever, and they were like, we can't follow this guy. We cannot sing along because Bach's just fucking rearming everything
Just
like
shredding.
crazy, improvising, shredding. Dude. Like, I love that story. We can't follow this guy. He's brilliant. It's great, but like, geez, we can't sing along.
Where's the one?
Where's one? I love that. I think that's such a great. That's fucking great. Everybody talks about how Bach would have been a great jazz player. He's like, had some of that language. Figure bass is really, figure bass is a lot like chord changes. It's really it's interesting how these things kind of have developed over the centuries.
Yeah, definitely. Just on that where's the one topic. Have you ever had like Frank Zappa? I think sometime in his career, someone asked him, a musician he'd hired, said, "Where's the one?" And he said, "Do you want window seat or aisle?"
Frank Zappa.
It's like, you're going home. Which one do you want?
Window seat or aisle?
Yeah.
Where's the one? You're fired.
Yeah, that's basically it. You're fired. It's like, geez, man.
I haven't spent a whole lot of time listening to Frank Zappa, but my trumpet teacher in my master's program was like really into Frank Zappa. And then later on in life, somebody's like, you have to hear this album. I don't remember which one it was. A live album, I think. And it's fucking bonkers. It's bonkers. It's
wild.
Great. It's great. I mean, I really enjoyed it. It reminds me of, in a weird way, in terms of just like the outrageousness of it. It reminded me of some jazz music. It reminded me of like Mono Neon a little bit. If you've checked out Mono Neon, and his stuff,
absolutely.
His records, man.
Yeah, it is essentially jazz. I mean, it's like some of the, and even if just his personality alone, like to watch him speak in interviews, that's awesome. But then you listen to his stuff. I think I've watched a couple of like a few songs live that he's got this crazy. I don't know if it might be marimba, maybe a marimba player.
Yeah.
Just absolutely shreds. And I'm like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Like
my understanding is that he would get like college students that were just out of college, just out of jazz school or whatever, just out of college or something, and then tour with them for a little while. It's like as young players.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, Steve Vai. Steve Vai was he came up with Zappa.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a deep well of stuff that I haven't checked. I know Zappa's a really deep human too. Should probably check more of that stuff out. But
yeah, me too, to be honest.
There's only so much time in the day.
Yeah, so much time in our lives.
I'm listening to a whole bunch of Carla Bley right now, which has been really fun.
Okay, I've never heard this
wild, man. She's just a big band composer. Wild music. Yeah,
you got to send me some stuff. I've got a pretty I'll check out some new stuff here and there, but I've got a very go-to playlist. My classic playlist. A lot of Steely Dan, a lot of Yellow Jackets, a lot of Theo, that kind of stuff.
Steely Dan. I had a question on here that was look at this. Do you set deadlines for getting creative music done? Are you going for a certain sound? Like, I want this to sound like Steely Dan. I have that written as a question. Look at that.
Imagine if that would be hard to make things sound like Steely Dan. I've actually thought about that. I'm like, how do I capture that sound? It's pretty hard. But yeah, deadlines. Yeah, definitely. Like, I try and set in my head deadlines.
Well, it sounds like you're just crushing like morning to 3 a.m.
Yes. Yeah. I'm getting way worse at that. Like I was 28 4 years ago, and I've noticed the difference from 28 to 32 so drastically in terms of like how late I can stay up, how much, just general energy based things. I'm like, cool, I got to work harder now. Like, 28, I could stay up all night and write music for ages, like really long amounts of time, silly amounts of time. Now, if I don't get like 7 hours sleep, I'm like,
yeah.
But yeah, no, I try to set deadlines. because if I don't, I could, mix a fucking song for days and days, and it would never be done. So I'm also sort of dealing with the thing which I'm sure you and most artists deal with, is like perfectionism and like letting things go, and just letting a thing be a snapshot of whenever that was, whatever that was, and whenever that was in my life. So that's
this book talks about that, the perfectionist trap.
That sounds like something I should read. I should probably.
Yeah, I mean, he also says like your track's got to bang, it's got to sound professional, it's got to be great, but also do not get caught up in the small little details. Get the track done and get it out. Like, do not get stuck in a perfectionist trap. That track could be making you money right now.
Exactly. Yeah, and I mean, like sometimes I remember a couple of mixes from early on, like probably Stitch Up or Hour After Drop. I would get Libby and I'm like, hey, can you come listen to this? And there's a couple of times where I'd be like, cool, so does this sound better or does this sound better? And it was like moving the vocal up and down by a decibel.
And she's like, I have no idea what you're even doing.
Yeah, pretty much. She's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I can't even hear the difference.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the like super toxic things about having so much control in the door of a, like, in terms of modern technology. It's not tape anymore. I can do 1,000 takes if I want. But also, being the producer is difficult in that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely.
So yeah, deadlines are important.
Indeed. Well, dude, I don't need to keep you any longer, man. I think we've covered a lot of stuff, and this is awesome talking to you. I feel like I should at least turn this way and shake your hand. Thanks for doing that.
Thanks,
like
man.
Looking at the screen and looking.
I bled out. That's fine.
Yeah, it's all right. Thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it. Jaron Jay, everybody, go check out Jaron on Instagram. I'm going to link all of Jaron's stuff in the show notes. Thanks, dude.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure working with you. I've done 3 podcasts, I think, in my life, and this was easily the most comfortable.
Oh, that's so great to hear, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We're trying to do it. Trying to have some good conversations here.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, man. Yeah.
Sweet. Thanks.
All right, brother.
Woo! We did it!
Bye.